everyone, and welcome to Dead to Rights, the podcast video for the crime genre industry. I'm your host, Donna Carrick, and today we're going to be bringing you a great interview with Andrew Welsh-Huggins. Andrew is the author of the Andy Hayes Private Eyes series, featuring a former Ohio State and Cleveland Browns quarterback turned investigator. So it's in the style of the old-fashioned detective novels. If you love those novels, you're going to love Andrew Welsh-Huggins. So look for Andrew at Amazon or wherever you buy your crime books, and hope you enjoy. Now, before we get to our interview with Andrew, I've got to remind you that we very soon will have our anthology, our Carrick Publishing anthology, titled A Grave Diagnosis, coming out near the end of October, and it's featuring 35 stories of murder and malaise, each by a different author, many of whom are well-established crime authors, and a couple of noobs. So watch for those newbies, and hope you get to know some new authors. And these stories are terrific. I really think you're going to enjoy this. So watch for A Grave Diagnosis with this absolutely wonderful cover by Sarah Carrick and featuring the model Sarah Carrick. So you can see the cover off to the side here. And watch for that anthology, late October 2020. And it's, in this COVID situation we're in, it's kind of iffy having an illness theme, but we came up with the theme before COVID hit. So what can you do? We got to roll with it. Anyway, I know you're going to enjoy the book regardless. So, and now please welcome to Dead to Rights for the first time ever, Andrew Welsh-Huggins. Andrew, welcome to Dead to Rights. It's good to have you on.
It's really good to be here. Thanks for having me.
And you are located where, Andrew?
We live in Columbus, Ohio.
Mm-hmm. And you are the author of the Andy Hayes Mystery Series, which you've got 6 books, and you also have a collection of short stories recently, too. What is it?
So I write my Private Eye series, and then I recently edited Columbus Noir for Akashic Books. If listeners are familiar with Akashic Books, they publish noir titles and cities around the world. And one of my favorite ones I read recently was Montreal Noir. And so this is a series of 14 stories by 14 different writers, each set in a different Columbus neighborhood.
Excellent. And that's Columbus Noir. That's the name of the anthology, is it?
That's right.
Okay, and you were the editor on it. Did you also have a story in it?
Yep, I edited, and then I have a story that is set in and around the Ohio State House, which is a place I've covered many years in my day job as a reporter for the Associated Press.
Yeah, we're going to get to that because I want to know how that affects your mystery series in particular, what that brings to it, and we might as well segue right to that, actually.
Sure. So I've been a reporter actually for over 30 years, 10 years in newspapers, and then I joined the AP in 1998 when we moved to Columbus, and I covered the State House full time for probably 7 years, but I've been covering the State House on and off ever since. And in fact, I've been over there recently covering the governor's, they used to be daily, now they're bi-weekly briefings on the COVID-19 pandemic.
Right.
So it's a place I'm very familiar with. I'm still trying to figure it out after all these years, but it's an absolutely perfect place for a mystery. You've got power, passion, greed, shenanigans. It's in fact, my third novel, Capital Punishment, is a murder mystery set at the Ohio State House.
Okay, wow. So that really does that really is reality bleeding into fiction there, isn't it?
For sure.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned about the briefings for the pandemic. I would imagine that that would be working into whatever you're working on right now.
It's funny you say that. I actually, I am a couple drafts into an Andy Hayes short story set during the pandemic. And it's it's combining what we're all living through, the experience we're all sharing, plus a little bit of what I know from covering the State House and some of the topical things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's very interesting. There's a big debate right now about writing about the pandemic.
I know. That's why I mention it, so whether it's
Yeah,
making its way into your work, because authors that I talked to at the outset of this were more or less uniformly of a mind that they wanted to skip it altogether and get to the other side. But as time went on, they realized it's just too vague. If they're going to write, it's going to be in there somehow, even if it's in a small way, even if it's only in the background, like any other event would be.
that's right. I mean, we're already seeing. I'm pretty sure there's already one anthology that's out, about writing during COVID-19. My feeling, Janet Hutchins had a really nice essay on this in Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine's blog recently, about how she's actually fairly skeptical about accepting pandemic-related stories right now. And my feeling is I've also written I have another character who has only appeared in stories so far, and I recently wrote a story that basically is set in a near future time when we're back to normal, but the pandemic is sort of in people's memory. And I really don't expect to try to publish that for several months.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it feels a little
it's a
close to
tough one
home.
because I guess it would be, yeah, there's the feeling of too soon, you know?
Yeah,
And yet it is a reality, and I don't know how we escape a reality. So, I mean, I'm really of two minds about it. I wouldn't shy away from it, but at the same time, one doesn't want to exploit something, especially when you're right in the middle of it. So,
I think that's right.
yeah.
It does feel, I have a seventh Andy Hayes book in the works, and it feels strange. That was started well before the pandemic.
Mhm.
It has at this point no reference to it at all. It just sort of takes place in kind of current contemporary times. But it has felt odd recently doing some edits on it because it's so out of our experience right now. It's like on
It
an
is. It is.
alternative planet.
We are in the throes of this. I'll tell you, I've got an anthology coming out later this year. And I had been with a few of my writing group friends having lunch, and we'd been talking about, and this was in late 2019, whether we would do an anthology this year, whether my publishing company would. And I said, I think I would. And I had a couple of ideas for theme. And one of the ideas was illness. And they all jumped on it. Yeah, illness, that's a good idea. We haven't done anything like that ever. So I came up with the title, A Grave Diagnosis, and here we are. And I had
Yeah.
just a flood of stories, as you can imagine. A number of them mention COVID either as a main part of the story or peripherally because they were written during this. But it's like everybody's living this, so it's on their minds. And I never had so many submissions,
Wow.
for any
Yeah.
anthology. It was just wild.
Yeah.
So, by that point, it was already in place, so I couldn't really change it. So there you go. you know, it's funny. So tell me about the latest Andy Hayes.
Right. So the latest one is called Fatal Judgment,
Mm-hmm.
and it there's a little bit of background required. So in the very first book in this series, my character has a bit of an unorthodox relationship with a judge who, he has a troubled romantic past. The series opens, he has two ex-wives and an ex-fiance, and he has two sons, each by his two different ex-wives. So he's always trying to make amends and do a better job. So for a while, he has this relationship with a judge that he started out as her bodyguard, and it sort of morphed into, I guess, bodyguard with benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first book, that relationship suddenly ends badly. And the sixth book picks up with the judge reaching out to Andy with
absolutely no contact for 5 years. She reaches out and says, "I need your help."
Mm-hmm.
And he's very, he's startled by this, but he agrees to meet with her. No
Mm-hmm.
sooner does she basically pull up, he gets in the car and they talk, and she gets a very strange phone call that she causes her to cut their conversation short. She tells him she has to go. She says, "This was a mistake. Don't try to contact me." And then essentially she disappears.
Mm-hmm.
And the book is essentially him trying to figure out where she went, why she isn't at home, is there something amiss?
Mm-hmm.
And this takes him up to a part of central Ohio. It involves some environmental themes. I invented a bird called the coastal tanager,
Oh, did you?
which is you're going to have to look pretty hard to find a real coastal tanager, but I invented
I saw one.
Yeah, that's right. I've heard that from a lot of people.
Mm.
And so part of the mystery involves this coastal tanager and some development, and the mystery eventually takes him all the way to Cleveland, where Andy has avoided Cleveland as much as possible because he played briefly for the Cleveland Browns
Mm-hmm.
after another mess he got himself into, and he had a terrible season there and sort of left with his tail between his legs.
Is he by any chance a flawed character, this Andy Hayes?
Well, you know what it is, you know how it is with Private Eyes. There's always that pressure to have the fallen angel.
Mm-hmm.
And with Andy, when I was first developing him, I thought about making him like a war veteran, fairly common motif.
Mm-hmm.
But because I live in Columbus, Ohio, which is football crazy, I realized that there was no better fallen angel than someone who had been an Ohio State football star,
Right.
and then had thrown it all away, screwed it all up. And that's sort of Andy's backstory, is that he was leading this team to the national championship his senior year, right before the big giant annual game with the University of Michigan. He gets himself arrested, and the season goes down the tubes, and he's sort of persona non grata. And so that's kind of the experience that he later on slowly has to sort of build himself back from. And that's always this kind of cloud hanging over him. There's still a lot of people in town who, you're the guy who lost the national championship.
You bum.
Exactly.
So how is your part of the world coping with no football?
It's going to be tough. There's no way to overestimate the impact of Ohio State football on this community. Columbus is the capital city, but until the past 20 years, we did not have professional sports teams. Now we have a professional soccer team and a professional hockey team, but Ohio State football has always substituted for like the pro football. And it's just an outsized impact. I don't know how people are going to cope. They're talking about games with, a quarter of the ticket holders and people sitting 6 feet away. And I guess if they're televised, that will have some influence. But the spectacle of Ohio Stadium on a game day, where they regularly fill it with over 105,000 people and thousands more outside watching, it's just sort of unbelievable.
Yeah. It sounds sad, to say the least. Really, not being a huge fan myself. Here in Canada, we like our football, but I think we like our hockey more. That would be my guess. And soccer is a big growing thing here too.
Yeah.
Basketball with the Raptors, of course.
Sure. Yeah.
We do love the Raptors. So football's there's the Argonauts, but I'm not sure anybody's ever heard of them.
Right. Yeah.
back in my very distant youth, I used to date a fellow who was playing for the Junior Argos. He was on the farm team.
Okay.
That's how young we were, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've heard of the Argonauts because of that, but otherwise I probably wouldn't have.
That's funny.
So what about in terms of travel and things like that? Are you very restricted in that way?
Yeah, we recently went to West Virginia on a vacation. We met our new granddaughter, and that was very exciting. But both personally and professionally, we've really limited our travel. For a long time, if you left the state of Ohio, you were strongly encouraged to then self-quarantine for 14 days.
Right.
And we're still not doing much. We don't expect to do much traveling at all. I've been working from home pretty much since early March. I take a occasional trip downtown to cover these the governor's briefings about COVID-19 in Ohio, but we're actually not even allowed to go to our downtown office. I mean, we have to ask permission from the company to go there. So it's very, it's very odd.
As a journalist covering these things, that really is yet one more unsung essential service. So I've been trying to run through my mind on all the essential services, all the people who have continued working through this, and not just working as we do from home, but working in, what could be risk situations. And certainly going downtown to cover a briefing would fit the bill on that as well, wouldn't it?
Well,
take a lot of precautions when you go.
So the briefings are very, they're quite an interesting event. They are held, we are not physically with the governor. We haven't been with the governor for over 2.5 months. He beams in by video from another location. We are sitting at tables, and when we ask our questions, we are asking them in real time to the governor. He can see us, we can see him. And by the way, this is all broadcast. This is all streamed live. Well, anybody can watch it. It's the Ohio channel, ohiochannel.gov. So, and everybody's wearing masks, and we're pretty much the only people in the State House. The State House is more or less empty. So it's a very strange situation.
Yeah. When I watch any of the briefings from anywhere, I am struck by how eerie almost they are. And this is going to permeate our art. It's going to, whether we have the noblest intentions of leaving it out or, because it's just part of life. And life always does permeate our art. So I suspect that your Andy Hayes is going to take you down some of these roads, whether you think so or not.
Yeah, I'm feeling the pressure already. So I think you're right.
Yeah. So what exactly are you working on right now?
Good question. So I'm finishing up, well, I guess the 7th book is more or less done. I'm just waiting for the timing of that to be worked out. Hopefully it'll be out in the spring of 2021. I have several short stories that are out awaiting, I've submitted to several mystery magazines. I have a story coming out in an anthology in the fall about this new character of mine who is this is more of a thriller type thing. My character is I describe him as a freelance mailman. He delivers information, items, and sometimes even people.
Okay.
And he, his one calling card is that he's never missed a delivery. And so this gets him into some interesting situations.
So I have that intriguing, yeah.
Yeah. So I have that coming out, and
What's his name? Your new character?
His name is Mercury Carter.
Mercury Carter. Oh, that's
yeah. So his father was an actual mailman, and he named him Mercury because Mercury was the messenger of the gods. And so this guy is not exactly thrilled that he was named Mercury. He goes by Merc, which people always mishear as Mark. So that's that's just another little fun item to the stories.
Yeah, yeah. Now, other than the fact that you've been out at these briefings and such, how does your journalism career affect the style of your writing? What would you say it does to the style? Because I've interviewed a number of journalists, and so I'm just interested in your take on how that feeds into the way you write, not just your matter, but
Right. I would say the biggest thing for me is the discipline that writing on deadline has given me for my day job has translated to my fiction. You know, I struggle with a lot of things, I think, like all writers do, but like writer's block is not one of them. I can't afford to have writer's block because that's how I pay the bills.
Yeah.
And so I think I think I'm pretty disciplined. You know, I'm up 6 days a week, usually working for a couple hours in the morning. So in terms of I think that's probably the main thing that journalism has provided is just that that sense of discipline, deadline. You know, there's that old saying that has been attributed to a ton of different writers, but it goes something like, I only write when I am inspired, and I see to it that I am inspired every morning at 9 a.m.
Yes, yes, very good.
And I've always liked that. In terms of sort of style, my experience has been that I take nothing for granted in terms of the journalism translating to fiction writing. I find the two can be extremely different.
They can, can't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've
And so
published with journalists as well. So
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's I steal from my own headlines all the time. I've sort of taken a bunch of things that I've written about for stories, and I've turned them around and put them into my fiction. But in terms of, you know, in journalism as in fiction, I think we all try to hopefully limit the number of adjectives and adverbs, use active verbs, be exact, show, don't tell. But then there's so much more in fiction where there's this feeling sometimes that just every word counts in fiction. And I hope that's true in my journalism, but I think it's different when you're writing prose. And then when you're getting into the world of description, obviously plotting, pacing, I just, like I said, I try not to take anything for granted, and I study the art of fiction constantly. I mean, as I do the art of journalism, but I sort of look at them as two different things that hopefully I'm okay at.
Yeah, yeah. I think they really are quite two different things, and no question about it. What I've found with people who have a journalist background is that they know how to write tight. And that's really a godsend for them. They know how to get straight to the action. But they also, if they had a flaw, it would be that they write as if they have an editor in their back pocket. You know? And that can be, but you know, it serves them well because they can really tell the story. I think they've got an edge sometimes in that. At least that's been my take with the journalists that I've known, you know, that they really know how to get straight to the lead, you know. And that's great because especially in crime fiction, I think that's really important. My husband likes to joke to me, if you haven't got a body by page 2, give it up and start something else, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think even, I mean, I think that's always been true, but especially now, I think we're really feeling the need to really hook readers up front. Like, give me a in this media content landscape, give me a reason to
People are so horribly distracted. We've got so much on our minds, and I can't blame readers. I mean, they're torn between the news and the daily briefings, and it's just a constant barrage. There's a constant barrage of stressors and things to take their eyes and ears away from you. And even when they do come to fiction, there are so many forms and so many mediums. And, you know, I remember when my daughter was in her early teens, we read The Hunger Games together, and we just tore through them. And I thought, whoa, this is a different style of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
This is really quite different. And again, it was that just grab and don't let go,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And some of the great authors of a few years ago, like P.D. James is a good example of such a wonderful author, but, much more gradual entry, that you have to sort of have the patience. And I think once you become an established writer, I think readers will cut you a little bit of slack because they know they're
Yes, they will.
for something special.
Yeah, and it depends if they know you too. If they know you in one way, they'll accept that. If they know and if it goes with their mind flow, I know I'm just not that fast into the story. I know that, like, that's not my style, but I do love reading that. I love reading things that get you fast because
Sure.
I said so many distractions, so many places to put your eyes. If you can keep them right on that page, that's a godsend.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Andrew, it's been really wonderful having you on. Is there anything that you'd like to say to new writers to kind of give them a little bit of a leg up?
I always encourage new writers to come up with, two important things which they usually don't think of. First of all, make sure you, we'll say three things. Make sure that you have a place where you're going to write, and make sure it's a place you like. Try to figure out a time when you're going to write, because I think that's something that eludes a lot of people. They just have this idea that, well, I'm just going to fill some time in here and there. Whether you're I'm a morning person, but if you're an evening person or if you're a lunch hour person, doesn't matter. And then the last thing I'd say is, just give yourself permission to do this. This is an important thing you're doing, and it's totally the thing to do, to sit down and call yourself a writer. And it might not feel natural, but give yourself permission to tackle this project, and don't give up. The narrative that you're involved in at this point is, the end game is, we're talking years, not months. So don't get discouraged, and just keep at it.
Yeah. It's a way of life, really, isn't it? I think it's a way of life, writing, more than it is anything else. And at the outset, as you say, it's very difficult for people. They don't always feel like they are allowed to say, I'm a writer, I know one outstanding international best-selling author who told me that when he first started writing fiction, and he was a journalist too, as yourself, when he first started writing fiction, he didn't want anyone to know, because he didn't want to be boxed into success, like feel like he had to tout up what he was doing and have people weigh in, and ask him constantly how it was going and things like that. It's a performance anxiety. It really is. It's a form of performance anxiety, And he's long since past that now, so I'm sure he wouldn't mind my telling that story, because as I said, he's been an international bestseller all over the world, really. So, and translated into a multitude of languages. So, but that's how he started. That's how he felt when he started. Exactly that feeling that he couldn't give himself permission.
Right. And I guess the final thing I would say is something that I wish I'd done a little earlier, but I've taken advantage of, is join mystery writing associations. My inbox is so filled with various blogs and writing tip sheets, and then there's wonderful podcasts like this one. There's just it's a great community to be part of, and I guess I would say, don't feel like you have to labor by yourself. Join your local Sisters in Crime chapter. Join your Mystery Writers of America or North America. Join Private Eye Writers Association. Just join these groups. Take advantage of the offerings. Go to conferences when you can. Don't do this by yourself, because you can learn so much. I learn stuff every week, even now.
We're not those writers in a garret anymore. And I'm glad you mentioned Sisters in Crime, because if there's any men out there listening, they are not really Sisters of Crime anymore. They're Sisters and Misters in Crime.
Yes, I'm a longtime Mister of Crime, and it's just a great organization.
It is. It's a wonderful organization. I've met almost all the writers I know, either through them or through people that I met through them. So, yeah, and I've got a pretty big network. So there you go.
Right, yeah.
It really is a community. So thank you very much, Andrew, for becoming part of our community today. I really appreciate it.
So happy to. Great speaking with you.
It's really good meeting you. Thanks so much. I want to thank Andrew Welsh-Huggins for joining us today on Dead to Rights, the video podcast for the crime genre industry. And you can find us at YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. So watch for us. And if you just can't find us, go to deadtorights.ca. That's deadtorights.ca. And you can find all our back issues. And hope you enjoy. And please show an author some love. Be sure to like and subscribe. You know where all those buttons are on your YouTube and on your podcast venues. So look for them, and please do, because it gives our authors a huge advantage when you do that. Thank you very much for joining us. And our thanks, as always, go to Ted Carrick for the wonderful theme music, Eyes of Gold. Hope to see you all next week. Bye.
Dusty road, a man alone. His vital signs go on hold, and I don't know what you've been told, but the years have turned my eyes gold. And I told you what you told me, we'd never be in the same boat for free. Yet it rides, let it ride.